Hello everyone, welcome to the Race for the Win podcast. This is our Japanese Grand Prix roundup, and it was a bit of a snorer, wasn't it? We're going to talk about why it was a bit of a snorer, why there was a lack of overtaking. We're also going to talk about Carlos Sainz's shit penalty, and we're going to get onto, of course, Yuki Tsunoda's debut in Red Bull Racing, the big story of the weekend, and there's a verdict from Helmut Marko coming up as well.
And we will also talk about the multiple different grass fires over the weekend, which just caused utter chaos. A bit of an embarrassing look for the FIA, so definitely something to talk about.
Yes, that's a big story, isn't it? But let's crack on right now. The lack of overtaking. There was a lot to go crack on right now. We're getting on to Carlos Sainz. We will, I promise. But look, let's talk about why there was a lack of overtaking in the Japanese Grand Prix. 3 facts, first of all, to start this off. Only 15 overtakes after the first lap. This is a big decrease, rather, from 48 in 2024. That was a good race. And 29 in 2023. 11 of 20 drivers finished in the same position they started. In the top 10, Lewis Hamilton was the only driver to actually perform an overtake when he took Hadja on lap 6. It was a slow one, wasn't it? I think in the UK, in Europe, we all had to wake up very early. If you were just, a member of the public, a fan of Formula One, would you feel pretty bad waking up so early for that?
Oof, that's a strong question to start with. Yeah, probably. I mean, the thing is, though, you can't predict these things, and sometimes it just happens. I think what people are they're a bit more surprised because for Monaco, for example, you kind of know that's the situation.
Yeah, that's right.
So you know that the important one to watch, if, say, you're someone that doesn't watch every single part of the weekend, you're going to watch qualifying.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part of the weekend. But I think when you're expecting a Grand Prix to be so good, you put the emphasis on the race rather than the qualifying. So
yes,
it was it didn't meet people's expectations necessarily.
Yeah, it was a qualifying race, wasn't it? And we'll get into some comments soon from the drivers, and we got one from Fred Vasseur. But you're entirely right. Why was it an overtaking? Sorry, why was there a lack of overtaking then? I mean, I think what people should take away from this is that it might be a bit of a slower season. Mm-hmm. We went into the season expecting it to be so good. McLaren's up there, Ferrari's potentially up there. Red Bull? Where are they? I have no idea where Red Bull is right now. If they can get their car in the...
I'm not sure they know.
No, but Max put on a blistering show of performance. Absolutely worthy of the win. But let's talk about, like I said, why is there a lack of overtaking? Why was there a lack of overtaking in Japan? And it's because the cars are getting so good, isn't it? What we're doing is we're getting close to the 2026 regulation changes. So we're seeing a convergence in designs. We're seeing them get closer and closer to kind of perfection, I say in inverted commas. And that is basically meaning that they're producing so much dirty air now. It's very similar to, before the ground effect stuff came in, like 2021, we saw a lot of dirty air, things like that. And it's meaning that when a car travels closer to the car in front, the car it's trying to overtake, they haven't got the downforce because there's dirty air. There's kind of, I'm not an aerodynamicist, so I'm going to be using the wrong terminology, but it's air that can't be utilized for creating downforce. When that sweeps over the car behind, it loses performance. It also has an effect on the tires. So the tires maybe overheat. So they haven't got the mechanical grip in the corners, as well as the lack of downforce. These ground effect cars were supposed to get rid of this. And it did, to a degree. That's also why they brought DRS in, so you have more speed going into the corner, into the overtaking areas. It's getting a bit tired. And I think that's just because we're getting to the end of these regulations. Now, Max said something about this as well, and we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, a lot of drivers have kind of criticised the race for being boring. Nico Hülkenberg, he called it long, dull, not much happening. He said, I spent a lot of the race in traffic and it's not much fun looking at someone's rear wing. It's so difficult with these cars in the dirty air. Carlos Sainz also said the midfield is so tight and around a track where you need to be 7-8 tenths quicker to pass. It was impossible to expect a race where you could come back from the field. Back through the field. And he said this track has always been, in a way, something similar to Monaco. Like you said, it's kind of, it's follow the leader, isn't it? But McLaren had that moment where Oscar wanted to swap with Lando.
Yeah.
What was the issue behind that?
Well, I mean, you can understand why he'd ask the question because, I mean, he's a race driver at the end of the day. He felt that he could, if he was allowed to go past Lando, he'd maybe have a shot at getting Max. But Andreas Stella said at the end of the race that actually, like you were just saying what Carlos said, you needed to be 8 tenths faster than the car in front of you to actually perform that overtake. So it realistically, swapping the two drivers was going to do absolutely nothing in terms of potentially being able to get Max. It was just a quali day. And I'm pretty sure Stella said that as well. He was like, the race was pretty much decided on qualifying.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's going to be a thing that it's gonna become a thing that we see this season. Look, first 4 races. Wow, we've had 4 races in 2025 already. That's actually gone pretty...
have we?
First... So what, Australia? Including the sprint race.
Including the sprint race, yeah.
Yeah. And, all of the drivers that have started on pole have finished in first.
Have they? Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's I don't know. I was so excited for this season when it began. Development will come. Like, there will be a level of development between the teams. But then again, like, some of the teams are going to be looking at 2026.
But don't you think that's going to be what makes it a bit more exciting, though? You can totally tell that I'm the optimistic one of the group, by the way, and you're the pessimistic one.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It will be interesting because some of them will continue developing this year's car longer than other ones who will just completely shift to next year's car. So that will create some differences.
Yes, but then they're going to qualify further up the grid.
But who? Who will?
Well, I don't know.
Exactly. We don't know.
Yeah, but like, yes, I know you're talking about there's a different race, isn't there? There's a development race, which is happening season long.
Yeah.
But like when it gets to the point of qualifying, we're like, okay, Mercedes is now top. They're going to qualify first. They're going to finish first.
They're not necessarily. I mean,
no,
come on. We got a long season ahead of us.
I know.
And, let's just have some faith here, please. Otherwise, I'm not going to cope for the next 21 race weekend.
Yes, it is a long season. Things can happen. But I think it's a good time for the regulations to be changing.
Yeah.
I think it's... I think, you know what? I think F1 has to actually think quite critically about the tracks, because we have a lot of tracks where overtaking isn't that... there's not a lot of opportunity. And, Monaco, that's like the best example, isn't it? It is processional, but it's Monaco, so there's more to it. And I know what you're going to say, well, the excitement's on qualifying, which, yes, that's right. But I feel like look at Vegas, for example. Vegas actually turned out to be a whopper of a track.
Yeah.
Miami, I know a lot of people don't like Miami.
I quite like Miami.
I do too. I think the track is actually pretty good. The issue is, though, isn't it, is medium speed corners. A lot of the tracks throughout the season have medium speed corners, and that's where the drivers find it so difficult to overtake. So I know there's a lot of talk about like Madrid, and there's a lot of talk about like, city races, and I'm actually kind of warming to the idea.
I think we have to reserve judgment, really, and Las Vegas is the best example of this, because there was so much criticism before that race. Oh, it's another street circuit.
You're right.
That's so boring.
Including from us. Like, let's let's be open. We also thought this is going to be rubbish.
Yeah. And, they're focusing it all on the spectacle of being in Las Vegas rather than the racing. And then it happened and everyone was like, that was actually a really good race. So I do think we should reserve judgment. And I personally think this is why it's going to be good having the rotational calendar. Yes. But, obviously some of them.
Yeah, the rotational contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're entirely right. Right, let's talk about the kind of the championship implications of this. Like you said, The season, I think, generally, if you umbrella it, is going to be really exciting because we don't know who's going to win at the moment. It could be anyone. And I think if you're doing F1 fantasy, this is going to be really exciting for you. We did it a couple of years ago. We haven't done it since, but that was, 2023?
Yeah.
Which was a little slow, that one. but I think this year, if you are interested in that kind of thing, get on it. It's not too late. It could be really, really interesting. But from a race per race point of view, I think it's maybe going to be a little one, a kind of, a slower season. But you never know. Look, we're only 4 races in, three Grand Prix in. We'll see what happens. It's too early to tell. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think even though, yes, whoever's started on pole has won each race, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be boring. I mean, they're not all going to be a Japan.
Yes. Well, Australia was exciting, wasn't it?
Australia was so exciting. So I have faith. I think, like you said, we have no idea what's going to happen in each championship right now. Because constructors, that's pretty close. But also Red Bull are not really in it because they've, again, similar situation to last year. They're counting on Max at the moment because of, what's happening with the second seat.
We'll get on to Yuki in a moment.
But then also, the Drivers' Championship is still
open.
It's still open. Max has a good chance still, obviously. And Lando, I think it's going to be really interesting at McLaren because both Lando and Oscar are really good. So Oscar will be taking some of those points away from Lando that he could potentially be getting.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting.
I think so too. Well, let's get into these fires then. What happened with fires? I mean, it was pretty embarrassing, wasn't it? Like, I know, things happen, but this isn't the first time it's happened.
No, we had a similar situation in China last year, but they put some sort of solution, and I am no scientist, just to put that out there. I don't know much about what the solution was that they put on the grass.
They put down a chemical.
It was some sort of chemical, yeah.
Yeah.
But
milk. That's what I would do.
They put milk everywhere and it was all fine. No, they put some sort of solution down on the grass and it didn't really become an issue beyond that point from my memory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Whereas in Japan, it was just constant. It was like FP1 was fine. FP2 had 2 fires.
That's right. 2 fires, 4 red flags, 2 fires, 2 of which were fires, rather.
Yeah. Then FP3, was there another fire? Why can't I remember? But I know
it was in the middle of the night.
And it was qualifying as well. Had issues. And it kept coming back. And obviously watering the grass does something, but they needed to do more. Yeah,
it obviously didn't work. It was a dry weekend, apart from Sunday where it got a little moist. I thought what was going to happen was, because obviously with all these red flags, with all the pauses and the breaks, the teams weren't getting in their testing programs. Like very few teams actually finished and completed their programs. A few did, but a lot of them didn't. And then you got the crash from Jack Doohan. You had Alonso going off as well, getting stuck in the gravel. I was thinking, you know what, this might be actually quite an interesting race. It might mix up the chickens a little bit, because I don't know if that's a saying, by the way, but I liked it.
I liked it.
And because of that, we might get some interesting qualifying placements and therefore an interesting race. There wasn't much of that at all, actually, as we've said, but it did just, I mean, Formula One is a big ass business. Like, it is big. Our motorsport editor-in-chief, Ben Hunt, he put on Twitter, X, he was like, the FIA should be embarrassed.
Yeah, it's like a $1 billion sport.
Yeah, it's a $1 billion sport.
Yeah.
This is like, you can't have something as stupid as grass fires bringing to a halt practice and then qualifying. That is appalling. They had 2 days to really get on top of this. They had everyone's got access to weather.com. The grass looked pretty rubbish. Sky Sports, their coverage, straight away Ted was like, don't know if this is a thing, but the grass looks dry.
It is crisp.
Yeah, and then I think it was Crofty. Maybe we'll talk about Crofty's coverage in a minute. He was doing God's work. I don't know how he managed to talk throughout that race. There are differing opinions on his coverage. and Jacques Villeneuve's as well. So we might just talk about that quickly. But, if Ted Kravitz could come to the track and be like, that grass is dry, going to mention that because that might be a thing. Surely, like, the circuit management should be like, yeah, we know sparks come off these cars. We know, which is a bit ridiculous anyway. We know there's been a history of fires at tracks. I'm just glad there's no manhole covers.
God.
That is all I'm saying, because that would have just put the cherry on top.
Yeah, I mean, surely there's got to be something more that they can do as a preventative measure.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a technology-forward motorsport. There should have been something.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, like Crofty, I think it was Crofty, he said, just change the metal? Or was it Crofty or maybe Ted? I can't remember. They were like, why can't they just swap out the planks underneath the car?
I think it was Ted.
Yeah, like, why can't you just swap out that for a different metal? Because the sparks are there for entertainment purposes. They're not there to do something. Obviously, the plank, the major use of the plank underneath is for safety. Obviously, they also check the depth of it. We saw Hamilton was disqualified from China. From China because of that. Too much rubbing, the car's too low. But the main point is safety. The sparks were added for fun.
Well, and I quite like them.
It makes for incredible photos.
Yeah.
And it looks cool.
Yeah.
But just have a backup, guys. It's crazy.
It is bad. And it was just constant as well, which it just was not a good look.
No. Let's just quickly talk about Crofty versus Jacques Villeneuve, because I was reading a lot about this on Reddit, and there are, both sides have their love, both sides have received their hate. But that's just two personalities that clashed. Like, it was kind of difficult to listen to. Let's caveat that as well with the fact that it was a difficult race to talk about.
It was a bit like, when you go into pre-season testing and ahead of time the commentary,
shit's gonna get real.
The commentary during pre-season testing, you never really know what you're gonna get. It's like a little bit of delirious chat.
Yeah.
And it was similar, it must be such a hard job just to keep talking when there's nothing to talk about.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I don't feel like people appreciate what they do enough, actually.
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it to save my life.
I'm too monotone to do that.
Me too. I don't know why we have a podcast.
You'd be like, this is
rubbish.
I didn't know where to go then.
So I think because I'm not going to tell you my opinion on this because it's just not necessary, but like the thing to remember with this kind of coverage and commentating on a race is Crofty has to commentate for everyone, for every single type of fan, and that is so difficult. It's like I said, it's hard. Like, I couldn't do it. So Crofty has to think, okay, Drive to Survive fans, they're going to be watching. That's why there's like the little, the tires are getting hot, which means they don't work. It's like simple stuff. But then they bring in Jacques, they bring in Martin Brundle, who can tell you a little bit more about race strategy. They can get kind of deeper into the weeds a little bit. And that is why there's a pairing. It's so you can have two, not only opposing point of views, which is really important, a little bit of back and forth, but it's so they can also kind of commentate for different types of people, for different types of fans. So, I've had a lot of comments kind of negatively against both of them. Just leave it be. They're doing their jobs. Jacques Villeneuve is maybe like, he has like a very different style. He's very to the point. He does there's no kind of wishy-washy stuff. But that's just him. And like, just, what do you think anyway?
I didn't even realise that was a discussion, to be quite honest.
I didn't until I went on Reddit.
Am I living under a rock? I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I like that they choose, like Sky in general, choose different personalities. Like, there's often a bit of back and forth between Crofty and Karun as well. Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Something different. It would be so boring if there was none of that involvement.
Yes.
Involvement was totally the wrong word, but we're going to roll with that.
No, I like it. They're very involving. Let's talk about Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, he's struggling a little bit at Williams, but that wasn't the main struggle this weekend. I'm going to pass it to you first because I'm just going to start crying. Out of laughter.
crying.
Out of laughter.
I was like, are you okay? Yeah, poor old Carlos. Basically, so drivers get fined if they're not in their position that they need to be in for the national anthem before the race.
And they get fined a lot, don't they?
Isn't it usually 60k?
60,000 euros.
Which is crazy. But,
F1.
here we are.
Like we said, it's $1 billion motorsport.
Yeah, they've got to buy those sprinklers somehow. One day. They're saving up. So
Go on, Salam. Get it going.
So, yeah, if you're late, you get fined 60k. He was late. He was not there on time. However, he had a doctor back up and kind of support his excuse, saying that...
He verified it.
Yeah, I'm going in a very roundabout way here. Basically, he had stomach issues before the race. He needed to get that sorted before he went out for the national anthem. And a doctor was like, yes, that's what happened. I gave him medication, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, fine, 20k.
Yeah, 20k with
20K.
10k suspended for a year.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
That is just like, come on, like if a driver is literally, let's say he was being sick. We don't know what was going on. There was some sort of stomach upset. It was an expensive poo. The driver's being sick. You don't want them at the national anthem throwing up. Also,
that is just a legit excuse, isn't it? Yeah. It's not like he was playing Pac-Man. I don't know.
What? What? no, okay.
He wasn't just making a TikTok or something. He had a legit excuse. Also, it's does the world need to know this? Do you have to...
We're talking about it, to be fair.
I know, but not that many people listen to this, so it's fine. But they put it out on an official document.
Yeah.
That's told to the world, and it's he just got fined 20,000 euros for having an upset stomach, which is just strange. But then I feel like, okay, fine, the drivers can get fined for stuff, but if something that is kind of caused by something being overlooked by the FIA is causing disruptions, like the fires, like the manhole covers. If, say, they have one chance a fire breaks out, okay, fine, but prevent it now. If it then happens again, they should get fined.
It was Carlos Sainz in Vegas as well, wasn't it? That hit the manhole cover. And they had to...
This guy just can't catch a break.
He really can't. I mean, that's so difficult, though, with the manhole cover in Vegas, though, wasn't it? Because it's they had to get replacement parts. I know it's because of the manhole cover, but there is... an argument to be made. Well, they are going to be therefore improving their car because it's new. I can't remember what he had. Was it a new power unit? I can't remember. Do they then have to pay the penalty for that? Is it on the FIA? I don't know. Or what if... So Hadjar, I think it was Hadjar going into 130R. He ran onto the grass. Technically, I don't think this was ever actually confirmed, but it looked like he started the grass fire. But where does that penalty go?
But drivers go off. The FIA should be prepared that someone could go off. Let's maybe make it so it doesn't combust.
Yes, I think that's fair. Yeah. No, FIA, come on, get your head around it. I think they should be fined. I think you're entirely right. Why Carlos Sainz having a poo was fined. And the grass fires wasn't. That's just insane.
I don't know. Maybe that's us just craving a bit more excitement and drama in our lives.
Maybe.
Let's
get on to the big story then. Big last 10 minutes of the podcast. Let's get on to the big story. And of course, that's Yuki Tsunoda. The brilliant little Yuki Tsunoda at Red Bull. He's been building up to this moment for 4 years. Mm-hmm. He's been told no countless times. By Christian Horner, by Helmut Marko, by apparently Adrian Newey, according to Helmut Marko, which was absolute crap. It's not a thing. Christian was like, yeah, no. He finally made it. How'd it go for him?
See, I think he did fine. I think people, you can't just expect him to sit in that car. A car, by the way, that Max isn't even happy with. And just, win or get on the podium or get into the points. Like, it's always going to be, there's going to be a transitional phase where he's adjusting to the car, which is also why I think it was harsh that they didn't give Liam Lawson more time, because it does just take some time. And it's not like they've got the RB19 again. Like, it just takes time. Like, give them some breathing room.
Yeah, like when Carlos Sainz is struggling in a Williams for the same reason.
Yeah.
That is just part of the process, isn't it? Hamilton is I know he won the Chinese sprint race, but again, like, there are different variables surrounding that. He started in first, and you know what he's like with his tyres, like, he's unbelievable. You're entirely right. I think this is also a difficult weekend for Tsunoda to start on because of what we talked about earlier, because of the dirty air. And I mean, look, he qualified 15th and he made it 3 places.
Yeah.
He did all right.
And in that race, that was pretty good.
Yes, I know the qualifying wasn't quite there. He made a big mistake. And in, you know, what we're now referring to as Monaco 2.0, it was a devastating mistake. But, like you said, it's his first time in the car. It's not like he had a load of time as well because of all the red flags.
Yeah.
So, I mean, personally, I think he did okay.
Yeah.
I think, let's wait, give him the second race before Red Bull replaces him with Christian Horner. You know, at least give him 2 races, right?
They're going to be calling Toto Wolff. Former Red Bull driver.
It's when like, I don't know, it's when they get Daniel Ricciardo back where you're like, oh yeah, things are happening.
I also just think, I mean, first of all, the pressure was on. It was his home race, the last race in Japan with Honda, and you know, he's finally in a Red Bull. But I feel like we saw a different Yuki this weekend, and it was crazy. Like, he was so level-headed, he was so mature. It was like he got this rejection at the end of 2024 and was just like, right, I need to pick myself back up, sort my kind of mentality out, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, how he deals with
that's right,
stress and maybe some anger has cropped up here and there. So he's really dealt with that, and he came back. His feedback to the team from what was broadcast was
incredible,
very different to what we're used to seeing from him. So I think this is perfect timing for him to be in Red Bull. I just hope that they give him the time that he needs to actually
adjust,
do that. Yeah, and I mean, Marco has said that that's it. Like, they're not changing the driver lineup now.
I'll believe that when I see it.
I mean, who knows? I mean, Perez was technically still in contract till the end of this year anyway. So
I think on the other side of that, I think it was, like you said, I think it was unfair for Red Bull to remove Liam Lawson before Suzuka, because he has a lot of experience at Suzuka.
Yeah.
I think this would have been a really... it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because the track was so difficult to overtake on. But this could have been, like, at least in qualifying, this could have been a good litmus test for him. He hadn't driven on the first 2 tracks before. Is that right? Yeah, he hadn't. He didn't have any experience.
One of them was a sprint race.
Exactly.
Weekend.
So he had very little practice. So putting him on Suzuka, where he's raced in Super Formula and things like that, like, he has a lot of experience on that track. To miss out on that final litmus test, I feel like it was a little bit early doors for Red Bull to pull him out. Obviously, they just went on damage control, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
But, anyway, so that's just my kind of 2 cents, because we haven't actually talked about Liam Lawson. We've just been too busy to do a podcast over the last 5 days. So much has changed within the last 5 days. But let's you mentioned Marco. Let's talk about him. Motorsport.com was able to talk with Helmut after the race on Sunday, and it wasn't, I feel like it was a pretty kind of realistic, can you get the actual quote? I just can't get the hyperlink, but I feel like it was a pretty kind of realistic and level-headed response, don't you? He basically said, look, it was okay, it was fine, but he made a big mistake in Q2.
Yeah.
And that was where his weekend unraveled. But I don't know. You know what Helmut is like. He kind of answers these questions for one person, and then he kind of gives a different answer for another person. But I think things are looking okay for Yuki. Like you said, early days, Red Bull looking to just solidify their driver partnership because Max was angry. Like, he wasn't happy with it. So have you got the quote? Let's go with the quote.
I mean, it's essentially what you just said. He just said it was good. It was just unlucky that in qualifying 2 he had this mistake, but otherwise it was fine.
Yeah,
it was a very subdued comment from Marco.
It was. I think the last thing he wants to do is add more pressure, because that is what has been making the second drivers struggle. Like, sitting next to Max Verstappen is a high pressure environment, and adding to that the car that doesn't necessarily work all the time, tiny minute operating window that only Max seems to be able to get in. And Tsunoda constantly throughout the weekend was like, okay, I'm getting it, I'm starting to understand the car. It's all about how you heat the tires up and maintain that temperature. So next, what is this? It's Bahrain. Bahrain could be a great litmus test for Yuki.
I think it was interesting as well, just going not fully off piece, but slightly. I have to do it at least once a podcast. I thought it was really interesting that Horner was basically like, our focus is getting Max that 5th championship. Like, their focus is on the Drivers' Championship rather than Constructors, which isn't giving a lot of faith
in the second driver
to Yuki. Yeah, I mean, obviously they are on the back foot from the start of the season because of this shift and what all this stuff that's been going on with the second driver, but it feels a bit early in the season to be like, our focus isn't the Constructors.
Yeah, he said it was going to be hard, and I like you said, it's because of the lack of points from the first couple of races.
I do agree, but it's like, it feels a bit.
It is
a bit early.
It's early for Red Bull as well. They're usually kind of like pretty confident. Like, Max is great. Like, he'll get it back. They don't have a lot of confidence in their car. And I do wonder if those comments stem from them possibly moving away from the 2025 regs.
Maybe,
and moving, because look, they've got Ford coming. That's going to be taking a lot of time and management to be matching the chassis with the powertrain. This is a whole new partnership, let's not forget.
Yeah.
So they're going to be putting a lot into that. And this goes the same for every team. It is going to be a difficult year to make up pace because of the time limitations, like purely just from the time limitations. So look, like we said, I think it's going to be an interesting season. One way or another, it's going to be an interesting season. 2026, I'm excited for. Doesn't sound like the V10s are going to get the okay. There's still meetings going on, but that's another podcast conversation. Nope. Thank you so much for watching. Any final thoughts? Out of 10, Japanese Grand Prix.
4.
That's high. Thank you so much. Let us know, out of 10, the Japanese Grand Prix, your opinions down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next podcast.